I ended up bringing you on today because I'm just getting a little bit frustrated about what's going on. I'm seeing so many different things and I'm hearing so many different things. And one thing that I believe now is that I can't believe everything that I see on social media. And what's happening is when I'm having conversations with people, like even during the times of the campaign, election day, and even now after Donald Trump has been in office, I'm getting so many conflicting stories and, I'm hearing people tell me things that I've heard on TV or that I've heard on social media that's not genuine. It's not coming from their minds. It's coming from someone else that said something. So my question for you is, what is DEI? And I'm not asking this like I don't know what it is. I'm just trying to get it out there so that the people don't know what the real deal is. I want them to get the real information. So what is DEI and how does it affect us as a people, employees, and small businesses?
Wow. Yes. My understanding of DEI is it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it is meant to, I think it started with affirmative action. And in this country, the civil rights movement, to provide a level playing field for people who have historically been discriminated against and not provided opportunities to succeed, get jobs, vote, all of these things. And my understanding of DEI is that that can include people of color, uh, people who are homosexual or bisexual or pansexual or whatever kind of sexual, women, and anyone who has a physical or mental limitation.
Now,
So,
when you say women, are you talking about all races? Because,
for
I've
sure.
heard these stories because I'm seeing a lot of white women that are like, yeah, DEI needs to get rid of it. We need to get rid of it. But I thought that from what I learned, it's going to affect them in the workplace as well. So is that true?
Nothing ever affects white women in the way that it affects women of color. We have privilege because of we're white. So there's that. I would also say that in this country, there are separate laws that have been passed to protect women's civil rights, to vote, to all of these sorts of things. And so legally, there are differences between what just protects women and what protects under DEI.
Right. Well, I know the one thing that's getting frustrating is just hearing so many different people talk about what they believe and what's true and what's not true. And as we already spoke before in our past podcasts, is you and I both are independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a
Right.
Democrat. I just want the best person in the office.
Right.
And one of the things that I started to see, and I started to think, am I going crazy? Because I'm vividly seeing lies on both sides. I'm seeing inconsistencies on both sides. I'm also
Mhm.
seeing people just saying things to get in the office. I saw that the whole campaign. But one thing that I could tell you is I saw a lot more blatant lies coming from our current president. And I just was thinking to myself, am I the only one that's actually hearing this or seeing this? And then when I'm talking to people, they're making up excuses that they've heard on Fox or they've heard on social media or whatever. And everything that he said that he was going to do, he's doing it.
Yeah.
Everything that was in that Project 2025 thing that he said that he didn't know about, he's doing it. And a lot of people that I know actually trusted his word when he said that he didn't know anything about it. But everything that I read in there, he's done it in the first 10 days.
Right.
So, again, my question for you is so what happens to small businesses that were getting funds because of this DEI program getting, trampled on basically? What happens? Because we're in a horrible situation right now as far as just small businesses and I've even heard, and I don't mean to carry on too long, but I've actually heard where Target is going to stop carrying black owned businesses in their
Yeah,
stores.
there was already before Trump was in office, there were movements by big corporations that stopped their DEI initiatives across the country. And I I think that perhaps when we talk about DEI, that we have to actually take a step back, perhaps, and acknowledge what the need for it even is. And if you are of a mindset that negates systemic racism in this country, if you do not acknowledge that there's been systemic racism in this country, then you will not see DEI in a positive way. And I think that what we have seen from certain political factions is that they are tired of being blamed for causing any sort of hardship or discrimination in this country.
That's so deep.
And
So
so if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't acknowledge, yes, there is a difference in privilege and opportunity in this country. If we can't even agree on that, then how can we agree on how to address it?
well, I feel like even with the DI program in place, I still feel like there was still favoritism, there was still racism.
For
You
sure.
know,
And I think that the conjecture that this country or maybe the whole world should be a meritocracy is unfair because people don't, well, I mean, what do you think when people say like everybody should be judged on their merit regardless of their skin color or any other difference they have, and we should only take the best and the brightest for any positions, any jobs? What do you think is wrong with that?
it's not going to happen. And
Why?
well, first of all, before I even answer that question, do you think that Barron is going to have to go through the merit system? Barron Trump, do you think that he's going to have to go through the merit system? I'm just being honest. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, I hate it when, I'm not even going to say politicians. I'm going to say I hate when people like like make you have to be at a certain standard, but they don't have to. So it's like if you want to be at that standard and you want to hold yourself to that, then everything across the board should be that way. And we all have to do it. Don't sit there and use your favors to be able to manipulate certain things for you and your family, and then say no one else can do that. Like that's not right. And I already
Yeah.
know that it's going to happen regardless anyway. But that's my question. It's not even about is the merit system fair or not. People aren't going to use it, especially people like him.
Well, I think that that's their argument though. That is very, very well placed argument because it's hard to say that there's anything wrong with that. It's a strategy that to me it seems like a strategy because if you say, what are you going to say? No, it shouldn't be on merit. It should be based on giving a percentage of the population jobs even if they don't deserve them. Like we can't, that's not a good comeback, you
But
know?
I think that that's where everything is false though, because I think that like I was even talking to someone today, and he doesn't think that he's a DEI hire because he actually earned to be in the position that he's in. But when they get mad at him, or certain employees get mad at him, or certain coworkers get mad at him, they always throw that DEI hire thing out there on him. And he's like excelling in this business, so it's like, why is he being looked at as a DEI hire just because he's black? Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be a DEI hire. And then on top of that, I don't care what anyone says. None of these businesses are going to hire a black person or anyone else of other races or whatever and hire them and then be totally incompetent. And they just hire them because DEI program is in existence. They're never going to do that. They're still hiring the top of the food chain. It's just that they're doing it because they're kind of forced to have a little bit of pepper in their salt. That's it. You know what I mean? So like I just want to make that clear. Like you're not just hiring just some random person off the street just because he's black. Like just because he's walking down the sidewalk like, hey, come here. We gotta
Right.
get you a job. Come on in. It's not like that. And the thing
Well,
that pisses me off is
but
the fact that so many people feel that way.
there have been situations where, a certain percentage of hires in a company have to fit certain qualifications. I mean, the whole EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Employment Office, was created to make sure that people, I mean, that's separate from DEI, but it's related, to make sure that people had an equal, so-called equal playing field, but also to prosecute anybody or assist anybody in a claim if they felt that they were not given an opportunity because of their race, religion, creed, color, whatever. So I also think that there's like a confluence of a couple things happening, that the the Trump administration is saying we're gonna also eradicate waste in this government, right? And we're gonna cut through all of these unnecessary programs, and we have a budget deficit, and there's all this government overspending, all of this liberal spending on all of these programs that we don't need. And I think a lot of people agree with that. I think a lot of people agree that there are parts of this government, of the federal government, perhaps also state government or whatever government, that don't work and need to be overhauled, right? But saying that the place to start with government reform is to do away with all the DEI programs
Right.
also
Right.
does not make a whole lot of sense.
Right. And
So,
that's the thing that doesn't make any sense to me.
right.
The one thing
But
that
the
had me a little
scary part of it is the reach. They're not just saying the federal government, they're saying any programs that are funded by the federal government. And so I'm not sure that people really understand, and perhaps I don't even understand, I'm not claiming to, the far-reaching impacts of a culture change in our federal government. If the federal government stops funding programs that help different people, that will have such a ripple effect throughout this country. So, and the world, perhaps. It's a culture change that I'm not sure that people who voted for Donald Trump truly understood was coming our way and coming so quickly.
Yeah, but there's still Donald Trump followers and supporters that still don't know, even with all this stuff happening. I personally
Yeah.
know people that they don't believe that he's doing anything wrong. They don't believe that anything's about to happen, and they're not understanding what's going on. And the one thing that's frustrating for me is when I hear certain things being said, I know what it means, and I know that it's not realistic. So, as an example, he said the other day that he wanted to work off the merit system. It shouldn't matter if you're black, white, Indian, whatever it is that you are. You should just work off this merit system, and if you qualify for a certain position, it should be good. I feel like that should be a thing, but we all know that that's not a thing. We know that it's not a thing. So you can't tell me that this is how we're going to start living our lives when it's not going to be that way. And when you have
Right.
people that are out here that are like, "Oh no, it's going to be like that now," and it's like, no, it's not. It's not. Like there's too much racism still out there, and it seems like there's something about this guy that brings the racist out. I don't understand what it is, but I've never seen anything like this before in my lifetime. Whenever he's the president, I face so much more racism from people compared to when he's not in office, and I have no idea like what type of Kool-Aid that he's pumping in people's hearts, but it just turns totally different when he's in office.
I think that historically on this planet, when there have been politicians who appeal to the differences between us and relegating certain people to a lower status, that is a very scary place for us to be. So when you're saying somebody's a DEI hire or something like that, it also presupposes that the people who are in power to make these decisions are white, because would a you own a business, you're a black man, nobody's going to say you're making a DEI hire, right?
Right.
If you hire somebody black.
Right.
What they're saying is white people are being forced to make DEI hires amongst people of color. And that just again to me points out how much power white people have in this country, right?
Right.
Like it's the people doing the hiring who are like, "Ugh, it's a DEI hire." That's
But
what they're saying.
but what's funny to me is how would their kids feel, or their relatives, or their friends, or whatever? How would they feel if they get their relative in or friend or whatever, and then every time the other employees get mad or their coworkers get mad, they'll say, "Well, you're just a friend of the family. That's the only reason why you're here." And I know it does exist,
Right.
but it's just the fact
Sure.
that if you have to keep hearing it over and over and over again, sooner or later it would get on your damn nerves.
Well,
And
I
like,
would say, what is the difference between, you know, it's one thing to say you're a DEI hire. It's another thing to say you're a Nepo baby or you're, a product of nepotism, which nepotism is ancient in this world. That is one of the hallmarks of white privilege is that my family did this. And so I get, like you're saying, Barron Trump, even me, I'm the product of white privilege. I come from where I come from and I've reaped certain benefits for that. I went to an Ivy League school. Nobody said I didn't belong there. Nobody knew my SAT scores. I don't move through this world. Nobody suspects I don't belong. They think I belong. I do belong. But if I was a person of color, maybe they would wonder what I was doing there. How did I get there?
For sure. I mean, as of right now, it's like I try to play devil's advocate, and it's like if I was a white person and I'm trying to live my life and my family and everything else, and then I turn around and I see the George Floyd situation, for example. The whole world was devastated by that situation, and then
Not the whole world, friend. Not the whole world.
all right, well, the whole world saw that a lot of people were devastated by it, and I think that's one of the reasons why I got the opportunities that I got. Whether it was the placement in the certain stores that I was in, whether it was my investments because they, probably got tax breaks and all that stuff for, doing business with a black person. So I could kind of see why they would probably be hating on that. But at the same time, it's like y'all been getting this forever. Like you
Right.
always have gotten this. We've gotten a couple years of good opportunities. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to try to keep things on an equal playing field, like you say, then you need to try to do things to be able to make us be on an equal playing field. Or look at it where it's like you help get us funding for us to be able to do us over here, and you guys go over there. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of different ideas that came out from black people that we didn't get credit for, we didn't get paid for. Like even like as of right now, I don't want to get off topic, but I still receive checks for my music. Right? I did music back in the '90s. I still get checks for that, but I'm getting crumbs from music that I wrote and something that my friend produced. And now I'm sitting here thinking that the record execs that actually own the label, their great grandkids are probably receiving royalty checks of mine that they had nothing to do with, and they get the majority of the money. So I'm not saying to do a favor for us. I'm just saying give us what we earned, give us what we worked for. And the one thing that's scary to me out of all of this is I hear people, like I had a conversation just this morning. I hear people say America's gonna, it's gonna fail because they're trying to ship all the immigrants out. And I'm like, why? Explain to me why this is something. And they'll say, because, they're doing all the dirty jobs and they're doing jobs that we don't want. Right? Now I've heard that on social media, I've heard that in the news, I've heard that just in general conversation. They do jobs that we don't want. But the key thing here is our president's not thinking that. He said flat out that these immigrants are taking black jobs. So he feels like the black people are supposed to be in a warehouse. We're supposed to be driving the forklifts. We're supposed to be basically in a cotton field sweating. And it's like for black people that are telling me that there's nothing wrong with that statement, it really makes me feel like am I hearing this clearly? Because there are a lot of black people that are around me that don't feel like he said anything wrong. And I don't understand. I'm totally confused.
Well, I want to go back to what you said about George Floyd for a second, and everything that happened in 2020. And I don't know. The truth of the matter is that the history of DEI in this country goes way back, way, way, way before then. However, that was a pivotal point in our modern history about it. But I would posit that that was white guilt that powered a lot of those initiatives. And people don't feel guilty about it anymore.
Yeah, time's up. You got your
Right,
good 3 4 year run now. Time's up. Get out of
right,
here.
right. Um, that's the most recent thing. I think that when we're talking about jobs and equity and all of this, that what I would love to see, I think that this DEI stuff is seen as a hand out and not a hand up. And I've always viewed everything like that as a hand up because if this country empowers Black entrepreneurs like you will create an economic ecosystem that empowers other people. not just Black people, but other people. So I don't understand why we don't invest in Black entrepreneurship more so in this country. And I think that we have seen the power of the Black dollar in this country. There are movie studios, Tyler Perry's, what 50 Cent is building, like you're saying, music, all of this stuff. There might be white involvement, of course, but I think that the Black dollar could be harnessing a lot more power than it is right now.
Well, I remember early on in my career with Bungie, I heard that if you're a creative person, you can't run a business. That's one of the things that really like motivated me to want to try to be the best CEO that I could possibly be. This is before you came on board, and it really bothered me, and it still bothers me to this day that they even had the audacity to say it to me in my face in a meeting. And for me, I look at it where it's like there's a lot of people out there that are just like me that has the artistic value and they are smart enough to be able to run a business and they treat people fairly. They don't mistreat people. And one of the things that I can say is you and I had a conversation earlier that was very heartfelt for me because you let me know how good that it felt for you to work for Bungie, and you was giving me the credit of being a good boss and for me to be able to treat people fairly and with respect. And
Yeah, so I would say it this way. I'm a white woman. I've been a white woman my whole life. I am not saying I have no idea what it's like to be in anybody else's skin other than my own. However, I've worked for companies. I've been in the business world for, a couple of decades at this point. And working within the system that has been created by white men is very different than working with somebody like you who is basically creating a system from scratch,
right,
and creating a new paradigm of what it means to be a business owner, a CEO, and how you want to treat people. And you don't know what it's like to work for a big corporation because you didn't do it. So you don't bring all of those biases with you. You're doing what you think is right based on your knowledge of this world and your perception of how you want people to be treated.
right.
And that is so different from how so many people in corporate America are treated that I wish that there was a way for other people to see what it would be like to work for somebody like you, because it's been transformative for me to collaborate with you on so many different things. It's made me stronger, it's made me more confident, and I'm so grateful to know you and work with you. And
Right.
to think that, like, yeah, you don't have an MBA, you don't have all of these things. To think that anybody in this country would look down on you because of the color of your skin or in some way think that you are less than because you're a Black man infuriates me because you are better than most of the people that I have worked for.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just really want to be able to say that, in these times, we all have to support small businesses because I don't know what's about to happen. And, you can't believe everything that you see on social media. Whatever you got to do, fact check. If any one of you guys are listening to this or watching this and you feel like we're saying something that's not true or something that you don't agree with, feel free to comment. Like we said before, Melissa and I are both independents. We don't hate anyone from any party.
Mhm.
I'm just in a situation where I just want things to be good for me and my family. And most of the time, people are only thinking about them and their family, so they don't care about what's going to happen to other people when all this stuff unfolds. So my thing for you guys, just try to support small businesses because we all need the support from you guys. And Melissa, again, thank you for the short term of response for this situation because I was so frustrated about this whole DEI thing that I called you up and was like, we got to jump on do another show. So thank you again for that. And
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you about it. And I'm glad that you and I have such a great dialogue about these issues, even though our backgrounds are so different and our experiences are so different. And we have an open, healthy dialogue about it. And I would hope that other people in this country can sit down and have with each other and have conversations like this, that create change or create understanding amongst people.